Welcome to Breaking the Glass Ceiling podcast. We'll be talking about the challenges we all face when we pursue success. We'll talk to individuals and professionals who give us insight and practical advice on how they broke the glass ceiling and actually reached their goals. Our mission is to give you the tools and resources that help you overcome obstacles and unlock your full potential. Our episodes may get a little edgy, so you may want to buckle up and get ready to break those pesky glass ceilings. Now here's your host, a true professional ready to take the journey with you, Celeste Sierra.
We are back again, and I'm so excited to have world famous makeup artist to the stars, Barbara. My good friend. Aww. I'm so excited to have you.
I am honored to be here in this adorable space.
How do you like it? It's cool, right?
I mean, from the minute you walk in, no matter where you are in this office, it's just, you feel it. You feel all of the positive energy.
Thank you. Well, I'm so excited to have you here because we have a lot to talk about with you.
We do.
I always love our conversations because I don't know, for some reason with you and I feel like we always get very deep.
Yes.
I feel like last time you were here, I really felt like I learned a lot from you, and I had a good time talking to you last time you were here. So one of the things I tell all of my guests, obviously breaking the glass ceiling is something that I created with the intention of bringing awareness and help those that obviously need a little push in their life and their career and their businesses to break through that glass ceiling, right through that barrier that's stopping you from moving forward. And I wanted to bring you on because I know that you've been through a lot in life, just like probably all of us, but you have always found a way to move forward and succeed. And now you're in a different stage in life and creating more success for you and your family. And so I am very excited you're here.
I'm excited. Let's get into it. Thank you.
So tell everyone a little bit about you and who you are, where you come from. Why did I call you world famous makeup artist to the stars? Because I know that if everyone goes into your Instagram page or your social media, they'll see some of the people you work with. So that obviously makes you world famous. But tell us a little bit about that, because that's always intriguing to everyone, right? Like, oh my gosh, like you did so-and-so's makeup.
Yeah.
And then you have this great photo shoot or whatever you're doing tomorrow. You're going to do somebody's makeup that's very famous. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I am first and foremost, a celebrity and bridal makeup artist. I've been doing that for about almost 8 years. Love that. I've traveled all over. I've been to Paris. Wow. I worked with Luis Fonsi's wife out there.
That is crazy.
A bridal show. So I do men's grooming. So that's where I do a lot of artists such as Bad Bunny, J Balvin.
Wow.
All the, Farruko, all the reggaetoneros and stuff like that. So I've done Lupillo Rivera. I mean, a bunch of celebrities. I don't know why I get nervous and shy to talk about that. You're asking me. I'm not bragging about it. But yes, I've had the opportunity to go on tour with celebrities too. I've traveled everywhere. And then for brides, I have a company that I started. I named it I Do Brides. So.
And this is your own business.
Yeah, this is my very own business. And
right.
I love brides because it's a crazy, it's a rush, but I love that I get to be a part of their love story.
Right.
And I found that when I started to do makeup for brides, God also used that to heal my heart from divorce and to never let love, like the hope of love, die.
Right.
So it became my passion. It became a passion, one, because I love love. And it was interesting how God, you know what I mean?
Works in mysterious ways to get you to not give up on that one.
Yeah, and
word.
I would purposely sit through like the ceremonies, and then I would go in my car and I'd cry.
Yeah, I've seen you in some of your posts. You actually love to crash your bride's parties.
Yeah, I crash. I crash weddings.
You're a wedding crasher.
I really am a wedding crasher. I have so many dresses, and it's been great. And then with the celebrities, it's amazing too, because it's so funny because it's too high. Well, it's high profile, and then brides, it's not the easiest task. It's the most important day of your life, and you pay thousands and thousands of dollars for, for that moment. So doing that, it's been fun. And then last year, I closed my beauty studio, and then I became a rep for an insurance company.
Right. So that's like one thing that I wanted to go into, because you have been doing the makeup world, the beauty world for a while now, and then you decided to step into sales. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that, and why did you make that? I'm not going to say change, because you're still doing what you do and what you love, but you decided to go into a little bit of sales.
Well, it's funny. The way that happened was I sometimes, you get burnt out.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like being a freelancer and driving and flying and, all those things, like it created a burnout. And then the pandemic happened. Right. So I remember a friend had an aesthetic company, and I went in for a facial, and I posted about it. And I already, I knew that I had influence, but another moment forgot to show me how much of an influence. I would say, guys, this is this, and people would purchase what I would say.
That is so.
And then they also knew, I wasn't just going to post about something and not really
believe in
it. Believe in it. So they took what I would say, they would respect it and also trust it. So I started to post about it, and it was slower during the pandemic. So then I remember the friend, I was like, what do I have to do? For the first time I tried Botox, I was like, can I host a party? And I invited a few gals, and it turned out so good. And then so they were like, why don't you help us, with the company? And
so it was an organic growth to be an influencer.
Oh, yeah. And especially in beauty, right? So when I noticed, or when I seen, so I started to help her. I seen that my influence, if I would say this, people would come, and then I started to see, wow, they're not only purchasing services, they're investing in themselves, right? But they were also buying products, and I lost count. I remember losing count.
What do you think? Why do you think that was? You became an influencer organically, but what was it about you?
I think it was it aligned with the beauty world, right? So makeup, I was already doing makeup, and then obviously aesthetics and facials and all this products that it so
went together. People that were already following you and seeing what you were doing in the makeup world and doing people's makeup, brides and famous people or whatnot, they already trusted you because you were already doing that. And then when you started being an influencer for certain products that you actually believed in,
and I shared, I would share. I remember having really crazy acne for a moment, and I shared that, and I was like, guys, I don't know what to do about this acne. My skin is like this, and then so I was just sharing my story,
and you're being transparent,
which I always do. Right. That's what we want, right? And people know. Yeah. So I shared that, and then, they seen it was a win-win, right? And so then now I became.
But I think that's different too, and something that maybe we should talk about, because being in social media now and being an influencer, you do get a lot of people that are just out there promoting, for the money or whatever, and not being true. But you were coming from the heart. Mm-hmm. You were doing something that you actually loved, and you weren't doing it for the money. And so again, it goes back to every conversation that we've had with our guest here, and the one thing that I always want everyone to hear and understand, and whoever's listening to us, is that in order to, one, be successful, you have to find your passion, like you mentioned earlier, and then that will automatically take you into happiness. Mm-hmm. right? Which
Absolutely.
is like,
And the money, it's funny because the money will come
right.
because people love your passion. So
Yeah.
that's what attracts, right? It's like
Yeah.
a magnet.
Yeah.
People see
Yeah.
that and they admire it and they respect it. And so now they want to be a part of what you're doing because you're so passionate, it rubs off.
100%. 100%. So for everyone that's listening and watching us, you want them to know that from your perspective, in order to be successful in whatever it is that they want, just be passionate.
Yeah.
Or find your passion first.
Yes,
and
find
then
your
move
passion.
forward.
It doesn't matter how long it takes. I tell my kids this. My kids are getting older, right? My son's about to be a senior. And he's like, well, I don't know. What do you think? And my daughter, too. She just turned 15. And I'm like, it's not about me. I'm going to support you. You do what you want to do. Don't go after the dollar because you're never going to be happy. And guess what? You're going to find yourself years later having to start over.
Yeah.
But if you just take the time, don't worry, go to school. You know, it's just, there's no rush.
Right.
And
I think that's a very important conversation too, with the times right now and having kids, to have those conversations with your kids because they, you know, they're always on social media. They're watching all this, you know, famous people on TikTok, or they're famous on TikTok, but they're making tons of money.
Yeah.
And, you know, that intrigues young people.
Yeah.
Right. And then they may not be doing it for the love of what they're doing.
Also, I think that like with social media, and here's what I always share with my kids is I've walked into homes, famous people. I've talked to a ton of people, and I always tell them it most of the time is never what it seems.
Right.
So you can't be deceived by perception, right? Because those pictures, you don't know what's behind it. You don't know what, you know, everybody, we know this. We're in media, right? This looks great, but then it's on the editor to make it look like, wow, you know? So I say, don't be deceived. Like it's not
always what it seems.
It's not always what it seems.
So I have a question. Let's see. I have a few questions for you.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. How did you develop your skills in public relations? Because we're going to talk about something new you have coming up. And what challenges did you face when starting your own brand? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you develop your skills in public relations? You develop relationships. Like you're big on relationships.
Yeah, I'm huge.
And how do you develop those? Like how do you go about it?
You know, it's funny. I've been praying about, I'm going to think about how I'm going to answer this, but the only way I could answer is with the truth. And for me, it was important I realized that I had a good reputation and I had a lot of favor everywhere I went.
Yeah.
So, and I don't say this to the women, to everybody. I'm beautiful and I know that, but more than beauty, beauty will get like, it's like a package, right? Like something's packaged nice, but I always knew that God gave me the look and the favor, but my heart had to match that. Right. And my integrity had to match that. And growing up in a household where my whole entire family, my grandmother was in real estate. She owned her own little store. She bought apartment complexes. My family the bloodline is, you know, business. So
right.
I also realized that my dad, when my dad needed something and people would just be like, what do you need?
Right.
But it was integrity and it was work ethic, right? And
Huge.
He always dressed very well. But so all of those things, right? So I learned that I would always just watch my dad and the way people treated him and what people were willing to do for him.
Yeah.
So when I started to learn, again, it was looks, but never ever, and I never wanted to use, you know, my looks to make anybody feel any way or to, oh yeah, well, I look like this. You know what? I was always humble. Yeah. Still, I know that I have my look, like that I'm pretty, that God made me beautiful. It's kind of hard to say that, right? Because you don't, but the truth is, like, right?
True.
So God made me beautiful, but why? Right?
And how are you going to use that? Right?
And how are you going to use that? So I knew that my integrity and my humility was going to be important, and that's what was going to keep me in places, because your talent could take you somewhere, but it's your character that keeps you in that position. So
that's amazing.
I learned that
you talk about, and I've noticed this last time, you talk a lot about your dad. You guys have a very special relationship. I get the chills trying to talk to you about that. It seems like you have a very close relationship with your dad.
Yeah, he's so amazing. I'm not going to cry, but he's the most amazing human being on this planet. And he's just so, it's amazing. He's taught me so much, but the way he's loved me it's been crazy.
Unconditional love.
Unconditional. Just like Jesus. It's funny, one day for Father's Day, they had me go and share something at the church because my dad's a pastor. Now, he wasn't. He became a pastor after I got married and stuff. But I remember sharing, but I had to write down what I was going to share. And when I started to share, I started to look at who Christ is for us. I was able to say, wow, my dad has so much of your qualities, God.
Right.
And so, I mean, from provision to understanding me, to never judging me, to letting me make mistakes and never making me feel like I was wrong for it. And really treating a young woman, a little girl, like treating me like a queen. I mean, with the utmost respect and believing in me.
Right.
It was beautiful because he would always, he just believes in me. And sometimes that's what it takes in order to get far, right? Your parent to believe in you more than anybody else. It's the power of the parent.
100%.
So yeah, my dad, what's funny is I've been single, because you're single until you're married again.
Yes.
So this year, next month, marks 10 years that I became single.
Wow.
And but I've been single for about a year.
Right. Because you were dating.
Mm-hmm. I dated one guy.
Mm-hmm.
In these 10 years, I've dated only one person. And I proudly say that. But, and so just right now, that lately I've been having a lot of awesome conversations with my dad, but sometimes I cry and I tell him, is it crazy that I moved back into my parents' house after 17 years this year in January?
And both your parents are still married.
Yes. Right. Yes. They're still married, still together. And so I was telling my dad, it's crazy that I feel like I could stay single forever because I have you. And that's crazy. Like, that's how deep that love is.
Right.
And how strong. Like, it's insane. Yeah.
That is so crazy. Because I do, it's very difficult. This is a difficult conversation because, my parents, just like yours, are still together after they're going on 48 years this year, married. And just like you, I've been divorced before and now I'm remarried. And so I truly believe like the things that you're saying, right? Having a parent that's strong and treats you well and has raised you one way, and then reality happens with our marriages and then things don't work out. It always like gets me like, what did I do wrong? Like, because my dream forever, like you're talking about love earlier, was always like, that's always been my dream, to have a family and be married and have the love and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure that this happens to a lot of people that are watching us or listening to us, but why would you say, like, I don't want to call it a mistake because we had kids with our previous relationships, so it was not obviously a mistake, but how would you explain, or what would you tell those listening? How would you go from a failed relationship and moving forward to not giving up and just creating something amazing still after that failed relationship for your life? Because you're doing it, I'm doing it, And, you know, when maybe someone right now is going through what we've been through, and it's a lot of heartbreak, a lot of struggles, not only mentally, but also financially, it could hurt a lot of people, right? So what advice would you give someone going through something like that? And you're very strong on your faith. So coming from your faith, what would you tell somebody?
I would say fall in love with Jesus.
That is, yes.
But even I will also say that sometimes we don't even know how to deal with the loss, right? We don't know how to grieve. We don't even know what grieving means. And I think one, it's not failure if you learned a lesson and it made you better, right?
Yeah.
And I think for a long time I walked around with a lot of guilt because I knew I had to break some cycles, right? And I also knew that I was unhappy in my marriage for whatever reason. And actually, love wasn't even what, you know, made me and my ex-husband get a divorce. It wasn't about love. It was about all the other things. And so that was really hard because we had to split up because, but we loved each other still. It was crazy.
That's even crazier.
And then you're hoping, right, that like things turn out a different way, but what happens when it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So I did walk around with a lot of guilt for a long time. And I seeked God and I didn't get like, I felt like I would get better, but I was on a hamster wheel.
Right.
And then
we'll go right back to, yeah.
But I will say, and then even when I started dating the guy that I was with for a long time, I feel like I wasn't ready to be in that relationship because I was fumbling the ball constantly.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to forgive myself. And you know what I mean? Forgive myself for divorcing or whatever it was, whatever guilt, right? Guilt and condemnation that you feel that. Yeah. And so I finally came to a place where I was like, okay, God, it's been like 5 years, a 5-year, like thoroughly healing. But in this last year,
that's a long time.
Because I didn't know, because people don't,
we don't know how to deal. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because we talked about this before. We always want instant gratification. We always want everything to happen right now, you know, as humans, and we have to give it time. Mm-hmm. But we do have to, I mean, I agree with you. Like, you have to seek that relationship with God first before anything else could actually be fixed. I mean, you may feel like if you're not seeking God, it may feel like, oh, I'm okay now. But truly, when you're, you know, laying in bed late at night, you really do know if it's fixed or not.
Yeah. You don't have peace.
Exactly.
You know what peace feels like. And now I feel like I have peace, but I needed a timeout.
Right.
Right. And I really need, okay, God, I've done this, and this. And then the next thing for me that was huge, that was like game changer, was therapy.
Yes. You talked about that a lot last time we were here.
And she taught me, because I knew that I was trying, but she put things into a different perspective and showed me, hey, it's okay to grieve. And what does grieving mean? Right?
It's important to find a good therapist. I think you have a great therapist, because you talk about your therapist, like she's helped you.
Yeah, and some of my friends I've sent to her, and everybody's experiencing breakthroughs, and
that's great.
You know, I waited for her to get in with her for a year before.
We may have to put her information.
Yes, she's amazing.
Share with everyone.
She's amazing.
So I want to move on into your next endeavor. Something really exciting that you mentioned to me that you're going to be starting up. So you're thinking of starting a boutique PR firm. Mm-hmm. Tell us about this idea, what you're planning for it. What are your goals? What is this going to be all about? Tell me. I'm excited to hear about this.
So this is something that, again, I learned my influence and the power of relationships and how I can be a referral partner. I was always referring. I was always giving everybody business in real estate and everything. Hey, I know somebody. And I was always the bridge between two parties. Yeah. So
always the connection.
Always the
You're
connector.
Always the connector. Yeah.
That's probably why I love bridges. You know what's funny is I love bridges. I went to New York and I was dying to go to the Brooklyn Bridge. And then I went to San Francisco and I love the San Francisco Bridge. Everywhere I go, I love bridges. But now that there are always like signs for me, right? Because now I feel like I want to be the bridge between people.
Right.
So when I seen that, my influence and all that stuff with the aesthetic company, and then I became the rep for Allstate last year, and that was great. And even just referring like real estate business, just everything.
Yeah.
This year, I just was wrestling for the last 4 months, just praying like, God, do you want me to start this? Because I really don't feel equipped. What does this even take, right? So I go to church a few Sundays ago, and I hadn't told anybody about this idea that's always on my mind. You go to sleep and you just know.
Always, yes.
And then people attach to your life because they want, to get connected to who you're connected to and all that stuff, which is cool, but leverage off of it, right? So I was like, okay, so praying about this idea, wrestling with it, and there was a lot of changes with the company that I was repping last year. And then I go to church and I got a prophetic word. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. Well, explain to everyone who's watching.
So pretty much a prophetic word is when God speaks to you through the willing vessel, which is another person. So I hadn't told anybody what I was thinking or praying about, and they called everything out. I have it recorded. God was like, go forth with that idea, the business idea. You will not fail. He has this for you, that for you. You're just details about what was on my heart. And then
literally speaking to you about what you've had in your mind for who knows how long.
Yes.
Wow.
And then Monday I get a text message from the CEO of the company that I was working with. And then he's like, hey, there's a lot of big changes, which I already knew. We were kind of just waiting to see what was going to happen. And then it didn't make sense for me to stay. And it was time to part ways. But God had already given me the okay and the word and the
day before.
The day before. So then later that day, I was like, oh my God, because I always meet people and they'd be like, what do I have to do for you to work with me? And what do I, or how could you, or could you help me with this? And I'd be like, yes, no. And I'd always turning down jobs. You know what I mean? I had like 7 job offers. And so I prayed that day because I was like, okay, we're going to have to pivot real fast because I haven't been doing makeup and what's happening. I have a really big year planned. And what do we have to do? But I said, God, you gave me this word yesterday. So what do I do? And who do I call? And I had 3 people on my list because I was like, well, if I'm back to owning my own time, right? And back to Barbara Ferrer, which is my own brand.
Yeah.
I said, I could pick the people I want to work with now and not worry because I'm not with that one company.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, God, if this is of you, let's see what happens. So then God told me, call so-and-so. And I said,
who's so-and-so? I'm just kidding.
the marketing company. Well, I'm working with farmers.
Okay.
So God told me, call her. And I said, and she would always tell me things like, you're so kind. And I wish you can work for me. And just very humble and just a beautiful person. And so I called her and she answers and I said, hey, listen, so it looks like I'm going to be going in another direction and I'm going to be starting my own company, but I'm choosing 3 people to work with. And I wanted to give you the first option. Wow. Are you serious when you make these jokes or what? Because, let's have a conversation.
Right.
And she says, you got to be kidding me. I've been praying for you. She's all, I've been asking God what I need to do to have you on my team.
Wow.
And I was like, we're a team. That's it.
What
else,
crazy.
right? And then she says, I've even showed my staff a picture of you.
Wow.
I said, look at God.
Wow.
If you just listen, right? And you take so now there was no questioning. So you have to, in the times, right? Just like your office, your podcast, all the things. If God puts an idea in you,
Right.
And I seen that I've been building relationships. I mean, you go through my phone list and I have some really awesome contacts.
Yes.
And I never wanted to ever feel, or that make people feel, the people I've worked with feel like I was trying to use them for anything.
That could be just in your
Yes,
own.
absolutely. But I also feel like the longer you can build a relationship and not ask, but just give and be of service.
Absolutely.
Then when it is your time, like right now, it is my time because I'm launching something, I'm starting something. Now I could go to all those people who I've built a solid foundation with and say,
Relationships,
correct.
again.
And they trust me, I trust them. And now, hey, I'm starting this. And guess what they're going to say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Where do I sign?
Where do I sign up and how do I support you?
Yeah. 100%. That is so true what you're saying, because something similar happened to me. I have this one person that I've known for probably close to 10 years now. And I'm the same way. I don't like to ask for favors or ask for business, actually. Like, I don't go to realtors and I don't ask for, like, when are you going to give me a loan? Like, I never do that. I build relationships and I become friends. And so this one relationship I've had for like 10 years and I have never asked for business ever. We've just been friends. We've known each other. And out of the blue, she messaged me maybe a month ago and she's like, I want to work with you. And I want to start working with you. I want to give you business. And just like this, like, sends me a very large deal.
Wow.
Extremely, probably one of the largest ones in my career. After a 10-year friendship that we've had. And then, so it went from that to, like, now she wants to involve me.
So she's a lender.
Everything. No, she's actually a commercial lender. I mean, a commercial realtor.
Okay, so let me pause on that because I want to touch on something that you just said. So you guys were friends for 10 years, right? Because I feel like this is something that people see, but especially in women. And I can say this even in the makeup industry. So when you start something, isn't it funny how you still had, even though that was her profession, right? She's a realtor.
Yeah.
She had never sent you anything in 10 years, but you still loved her.
Yeah.
Right? And you guys were still good friends.
Yeah.
Would you ever get offended?
No.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Is that we don't have to get offended. Do you know, like, but I feel like there's a lot of women that do get offended. Yeah. Oh, well, they didn't send the deal to me.
Yeah.
But that's all right. Right? Like,
very true.
Not everybody has to use you just because they're in your circle.
Right.
Right? Or just because and some people would rather not do business with friends, right?
That is very true. It could turn sour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to touch on that because I hear that all the time. And
it's very true. I don't know for men because I'm not a man, but in the women world, I do feel like it happens a lot.
I never hear that from men.
It's very sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Men are easygoing.
So now I want you to share can you share any tips or insights you've learned about building a successful brand and being a self-employed entrepreneur, because you've done it for so long and again, you work with very famous people. So share with us some tips and insights for someone that could be listening and watching and they're thinking about maybe starting their own brand, maybe getting into makeup or just anything that you can share.
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Get clear on what you want, your brand, and target your market, right? Target your market, because if you target your market, then it's easier to say, not to take a lot on your plate that doesn't match
right
what you're trying to do. So for me, that's why I narrowed down celebrities, brides, and then now it's strictly repping, right? So those 3 things. Anything outside of that, I don't want to do. Makeup for CEOs, I do that too. But yeah, get started. Know your worth more than anything, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
You know, this is a hard. And I always say this, and I did this from the very beginning. I picked a mentor. I picked a mentor, and not a young mentor. Somebody that's been. Honestly, when I seen you speaking that day, I told you this.
Yeah, I remember that day.
I looked at you and I was like, I literally thought in my mind, whatever I need to do to be her friend, it's fine. But I didn't rush it. You know, and this happened organically in time, but you're like, I eventually want to own doors too, you know? And look at somebody who already has the lifestyle that you desire to have, and that pick their brain, ask them,
reach out.
Mm-hmm. Hey, what's your mentorship program cost? Or whatever. I always offer money. And people are like, stop. But I'm like, no, I value your time. So how can I honor your time?
Right.
You know, so don't be afraid.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Take a mentor, learn, ask questions, and success. I think that word right there, success, it's a scary word because people think like, oh, success, but success, the definition of success is different to everybody.
100%.
So I think people need to know even that when like you're trying to jot down your business plan and what you want. I just want to be successessful. But what does that really mean 100%. To you? Because for me, success in the beginning, when I started to do makeup, I was like, wow, I'd be super successful if I started working with celebrities, right? But then I did that. And then I was like, wait, I don't feel
successful?
No, and I didn't feel successful, but because I didn't have that word. This is the first time I'm saying this, and this is actually really good, right? Because
it's true.
I didn't know, and I wasn't, so that was just a goal. But what does success mean?
Yeah, so get clear on what does success mean to you.
Yes.
Because like you said, it's true. Success could mean making $1 million. I actually talked about this last Monday. It's funny. Success could mean to you million, to me 150,000, or to whoever. Success may mean just be very happy and living at home and taking care of my kids. So just be very clear, obviously, on what success means to you individually, and not whatever else wants you to be, right?
Yeah. Google.
Exactly. Okay, my very last question to you. Let's make it this. I have so many really good ones. Okay, you've achieved a lot of success in your career. What motivates you to keep pushing forward and pursuing your new challenges? And through that, talk about what you've done to break through the glass ceiling, because I'm sure you've had times where you just thought, oh, I want to do this, but you had that stop, right? That ceiling that you thought you couldn't break through, but then you did it. So share with us all of that. What motivates you, basically?
My children. I want to be the best role model. So like when I think of my daughter, that's a big one. I want her to, I can't give up because I have them. And then for my son, I think because I have a boy and a girl. So when I think of my son, I'm like, I want him to be able to, when he finds a wife or looks for a wife, I want him to look for a driven, just someone that looks like
his mama,
someone that has those attributes, right? And I want him to just to pick a quality person, but that comes from what he looks at in me,
right?
You know. So, and then for my daughter, I mean, she's a woman, she's a Latina, she's all the things, but I want her to just always know that not to give up, right? And no matter what life looks like and how hard and how many times you have to get back up,
right?
I want them to be able to always be inspired by me.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I love those.
And then how to get through that ceiling, break through the ceiling, I would say never compare yourself to anybody's success. And the only I'll tell you that when I started this journey, I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a car. When I left, I didn't have nothing. And I remember I wanted a lot of things and it felt impossible. And the voices were louder. And what I was looking at around me was obviously it was bigger than what I wanted and what I felt like I couldn't attain. But I remember going to the racetracks one day and I really went deep on like watching how these horses were racing and they have these blinders on, right?
Right.
And then they are not distracted They put the blinders on them so that they don't look left or right.
Right. Just
and they're
the
just
target.
going, right? And they're going to win the race. And I remember I did that for like 3 years. I didn't talk to very many people. I dropped a lot of friends that did not align with where I was going and what I wanted. And the conversations and the road was lonely. But I got so far. And then when I looked, I was like, wow, I accomplished all that. But it was because I did the horse like blinders.
Right.
And I just went for it
That's
fast,
great.
just going.
I love that.
So
I love that. I think that's definitely a great ending to this because I love those words. And it's so important for everyone to really listen and focus on that. I think that's great. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
This was a lot of
Thank you.
fun.
I know.
I hope you had fun.
I did. You inspire me.
Aw,
and
thank
now you get to inspire others.
We get to do that together.
Yes, and now we get to do that together. Follow me on Instagram.
We will
My name
tag
is
you
Barbara
for
P.
sure.
Ferrer.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Love
you,
love
Celeste.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
Thank you for joining us on Breaking the Glass Ceiling. We hope you feel empowered to break free from limitations that hold you back, so achieving your dreams is now possible. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of our inspiring conversations. But before we go, we want to remind you that you are capable of greatness, and by joining us next time, you can start shaking off that self-talk so you can move forward. That's one step closer to breaking the glass ceiling.